The increase in population growth among developing nations and cities across the world within the last few decades has contributed to most challenges and problems, especially in the urban housing provision. The rise in urban growth of Africa means that providing housing and other services for urban residents, especially low-income earners, will be a major issue. How can this issue be resolved? Welcome to another informative episode of Housing Development. You go to source for housing trending information. Today on the program, we shall discuss the federal government 2 million naira housing unit for low-income earners, plus stakeholders speak on the incessant cases of gas explosion in residential areas, just as town planners examine the state of Nigerian cities. This and more housing news will come your way right after the news making rounds in the sector. I am Flora Ani, your housing diva.
The Nigerian Institute of Architects have announced their plans to design modern facilities for the Nigerian police force that will be conducive for policemen to discharge their duties. The Nigerian Institute Architects President, Sonny Echonu, who made this known in a statement, noted that the correlation between dilapidated police stations and barracks is unfit for human habitation and the violent disposition of some personnel of the Nigerian police. Echonu said the development would be for all police colleges, stations, barracks and related facilities, prisons, courts, healthcare facilities, public schools, public squares, parks and gardens, cultural centers, as well as sports facilities. He, however, called for the gradual discontinuation of the current practice of providing separate and isolated barracks for both men and women of the Nigerian police. The newly elected executives of Nigerian Institute of Town Planners has called for collaboration with Abuja International Housing Show, the owners of Housing Development Program, to raise awareness for the town planning profession. The President Town Planners, Toyin Ainde, made the call in Abuja during the visit to Abuja International Housing Show headquarters. In his response, the CEO of Abuja International Housing Show, Barrister Festus Adebayo, congratulated town planners in Nigeria for electing a man of great achievement and goodwill like town planner Toyin Ainde as their president. He promised the company's commitment to do more in the area of creating awareness on orderly development on our human settlements. The Kano State Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje says the state government would provide free land for the state indigents in the diaspora to develop residential buildings where they will reunite with their families, especially during holiday visits. Ganduje made the commitment on Saturday during a virtual Kano in diaspora town hall meeting organized by the Office of the Special Advisor to the Governor on Foreign Investment and Diaspora, Hajia Hama Awari. In a statement signed by the Commissioner for Information, Malam Muhammad Garba, indicated that already there has been a plan by the state government to grant land and tax incentives to would-be investors in the diaspora in order to promote economic investment in various sectors in the state. And the Managing Director of Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, Architect Ahmed Dangiwa, said banks and insurance companies have defaulted in remitting the mandatory investment in the National Housing Fund scheme since the enactment of the Act in 1992. Dangiwa, who stated this in Abuja when the Senate Committee on Land, Housing and Urban Development were on oversight function at the bank's headquarters, described it as a flagrant disregard of the law and disservice to the nation.
Hello, my name is Emil Kwon, and I'm the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Infrastructure. Keep watching Housing Development Program. It's a platform that shares information on housing for Nigerians, and is also a platform the government has used to be able to engage Nigerians. Kudos to the producers of this program.
Keep a date with Housing Development Program every week on AIT. Housing Development is the first and pioneer housing program in Nigeria and by extension, Africa. It remains the authentic voice of the Nigerian housing and construction industry. Housing Development is the only credible and specialized platform for seasoned professionals in the build industry where quality and credible players in the real estate sector meet to interact, showcase, and analyze government policies. It is no doubt that hundreds of thousands of prospective Nigerians who desire to own their personal properties have done so through the assistance of Housing Development Program in the last 10 years. If you are a stakeholder in the build industry, here is where you must be. We are authentic, credible, and supported by all the leading professionals in the build industry. Housing Development on AIT.
Those are the major housing news making rounds in the sector. For more housing, construction, and finance news, visit www.africanhousingnews.com. How realistic is the federal government target to construct 300,000 low-cost housing units for low-income earners for as low as 2 million naira? Now, these housing stakeholders have this to say.
The housing policy envisioned by the federal government to build 300,000 mass housing units in the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT for low-income earners under the federal government Economic Sustainability Program has come under the searchlight of professionals in the build industry. In a chat with some stakeholders at the recently concluded annual general meeting of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, they expressed divergent view on the development. While some of the respondents say the vision of the federal government will end up a white elephant project, others simply say it is not achievable.
Government has no business in direct production of houses. It will never work. This is a country of almost, are we close to 200 million now? And we have always had this 17 million shortfall. I'm sure it's more than that. But how would government do that? And they spend too much. The point is, the money government is spending on direct production, which is actually not showing, will be better, utilized if it is pumped into enabling, the private sector, the social sector, to actually come into housing. And I think that is the way to go. This 300,000 magic. We've always had it. This is not the first time, but it's difficult. And I don't blame government, to be honest. I blame those who advise, those who put forward this sort of policy. It will not work.
Where are they going to bring it? Which kind of materials are they going to use? Are they going to use mud, zinc? I am not too sure. But if the government can work the miracle and provide decent houses for 2 million, for goodness sake, that will be the seventh wonder of the world.
A member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Yakubu Garuba, is however optimistic that the federal government will see to it that the vision of bridging the gap in the housing sector, which is presently put at about 17 million, is achieved.
My advice to the federal government is that federal government must ensure that this project did not go down the drain. They must ensure the implementation of the project because incidentally I'm from the housing sector of the economy. I took part in the production of Gwarimpa Housing Estate. I know the value chain of what a housing program brings to the society, from the sellers of building materials to the professionals alike engineers, town planners, to food vendors, contractors, consultants. The value chain is enormous. I believe if the project is executed, it will really reduce the economic hardship in the country.
Mass housing in Nigeria, despite the difficulty in achieving the feat due to the cost of raw materials, amongst other things, has only been achieved in the history of Nigeria by Chief Lateef Kayode Jakonde, who was the civilian governor of Lagos State in the Second Republic. Will this feat be repeated? Time will tell.
My name is Benga Al-Shafa, the Chief Executive of Federal. Keep watching Housing Program.
Inspired by movements of the arts and crafts period, the Urban Shelter Residences Dawaki was birthed with a vision to create a masterpiece.
The Urban Shelter Residences Dawaki is a very unique project.
We've actually increased the window to wall ratio of houses, thereby allowing them to breathe naturally.
The functional part of the undulating form is also to help direct air movement within the building.
We've also increased the headroom of these houses to accommodate for natural convection within the housing.
Located just opposite the Gwarimpa estate and just around the Gwarimpa extension interchange. It's less than 10 minutes from Central Business District. Each of the houses come with spacious and generous room sizes, but much more than that, it's going to be a very sustainable estate with smart home automation built into it.
Urban Shelter Residences Dawaki is at the center of a new vision that sparks the minds of intellectuals. Urban Shelter, setting the pace.
The latest couple in town. How are you? Oh, sit down, sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Drinks?
No, we're fine.
How was the moon experience?
This was quite an
Mm.
We are renting at the moment, but we intend to sell another.
Why not avoid all those pile of landlords and own a house upfront? The average income and cost of building houses today in Nigeria. Mortgage is the best option. I tell you what, that's how I got my first house. And I've never regretted it.
To make good homes, and by implication a good society, an individual is expected to have an abode from which to take off and return at the end of each day. At the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, everyone deserves a home. Come join us at FMBN and let's shelter Nigeria together.
Divergent views of some housing stakeholders on the 300,000 housing unit target by the federal government. However, the Vice President recently assures that anyone that can pay 9,000 naira a month is eligible, and this will ensure that low-income groups all not have access to decent, safe and healthy accommodation. The program is housing development. I'll be back in a moment.
This is Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts. On Facebook, Housing Development Program. On Twitter, Housing Program. On Instagram, Housing Program. Join the conversation and keep up with the latest housing updates.
Welcome back. Without effective and sustainable planning of our cities, what we'll have will be chaos in housing development. In a chat with some town planners to examine the state of Nigerian cities, the state implementation of planning laws can help correct any form of chaos. Take a listen.
Most of our cities are not well planned. That's the truth. And those that are even well planned, that have master plan, in terms of implementation of the master plan, there are always problems. Sometimes it could be political, sometimes it could be social, sometimes it could be economical. And I just pray that we'll get there one day.
Well, not all our cities are planned. Most of them are growing on their own sporadically. Some are planned, but implementation becomes a problem. Because the people who implement the plans do so without input of the planners. As a result, you have people doing what they think is right in the implementation of a planned settlement. And that is one of the greatest problems.
Generally, you know that Africa and West Africa and Nigeria is like a developing country. So with that, we are evolving, coming up, and I believe with a couple of time, we'll get there.
Nigerian cities is at a state that I can call the formation state, because it's like we are starting from ground zero to where we are, and now the political administrators are now seeing the need for us to improve our environment, because without physical planning, there can never be social development, there can never be economic development, and gradually we are now taking the built environment to be very serious in terms of being the one to determine the outlook of our nation.
We planners lead the well plan. But due to one reason or the other, neglect by that the Nigerian cities and the neglect of town planning professions, the Nigerian cities know what we do. It's not the type of cities.
Well, Nigerian cities are just grappling for survival. If you look at Nigeria is a planless country. Only cities like Abuja and one or two few cities that we have in Nigeria can boast of a plan guiding their development. And that's why as town planners we are making advocacy for state governments across Nigeria to give the pride of place to fiscal planning, because that is what should drive every facet of our life.
Some town planners there speaking on the importance of adhering to town planning laws. Against the backdrop of the recent mishap caused by gas station explosion within residential areas, how close can one build a house near electricity, power lines, substations, transformers, or even gas plants? Let's see the reactions of some Nigerians on Voices on the Street.
Transformer can blow, but for transformer to blow, that means he has carried a lot of weight. He does not blow anyhow. But gas is far, far more dangerous. So we prefer transformer than the gas.
There is no point building on any of them. Both of them are very risky. You build closer to the gas plant, is risky. Build closer to the transformer, is very, very risky. So I will advise you to discourage such. If I'm to even pity, let me say electricity, because that one is a little bit minimized.
This high tension, it's not really the main one. They just raise the rod up. The thing now went and touched the high tension. That was the end of that boy that day. Just like it was a bomb. Electricity is more dangerous than the gas plant.
Life doesn't have duplicate. It's either you live good or it does not necessarily mean that a particular place you're supposed to stay there.
I mean, how can a government approve a land for me close to a transformer or a gas station? It's not possible. I won't accept it.
The two are very dangerous, but to me I prefer that of gas
area a little.
I can't build any house near any because that's the most dangerous place. I can't manage anywhere because I don't say my life is very risky. My children's life again is very risky.
The perimeter of the transformer, you are safe. But the gas plant, it can explode beyond its own boundary.
I think I will prefer the electricity than the gas plant because I think electricity is controlled. You can see everywhere there are people that build close to electricity, but on gas plant it's a time bomb.
Those are voices of the everyday Nigerian. Still on town planning, the current practice of location of gas plants within residential areas without adequate safety measures to protect the residents is worrisome. How can this menace be checked? This report will give a highlight.
The incessant cases of gas explosion work in residential areas and its correspondent effect on lives and properties in recent times caught the attention of housing development. This informed our decision to speak to some town planners who are stakeholders in the planning of effective and safe cities. Some of the stakeholders we spoke to traced the malaise to indiscipline and lack of compliance on the part of investors who constantly set their sights on heavily populated residential areas to site their businesses.
Compliance. Simple word, compliance. Planning follows development. Development should follow planning, but Nigeria is the reverse. So when people go and start siting this gas plant without due approval, right, when you go and stop a notice, by the time you have so many problems arise. Areas must be planned, master plans must be provided, and therefore what you do, whatever you're supposed to do is be in accordance with the land uses provided in the master plan.
Anybody that develops in an area that is not supposed to develop knows that he has not been given permission to do that development. First of all, you have to give allocation. If you have allocation, you must have building plan approval. Those areas that people build, usually almost 99% of them are not allocated because they are not planned. You cannot even talk of building plan approval. So people must have discipline to know, yes, I'm not supposed to be here. When the disaster strikes, it is the life that are going to be affected.
In what can be described as a big relief on the way to check the menace, PPL Lekwa Azuta says professionals in the built industry are now looking at the possibility of having some form of legislation that will address issues of gas piping into residential areas.
If you cannot secure a site exclusively for gas, then it should be within the petrol filling station, where you have adequate measures. But people came up with gas, I call it gas plants or gas dispensing facility, as if they were selling kerosene. That has been the problem. And when it explodes, it causes a lot of problems. There are supposed to be adequate measures in place. But the professions in the built environment are also looking at that aspect. So what do we do? The National Building Code didn't have any section dealing with gas piping and so on. We are now trying to introduce a section that will deal with piping of gas into residential areas and things like that, everything connected with gas.
It is believed that the rising incidences of gas plants exploding and causing heavy casualties in residential areas will be effectively checked if the twin puzzle of compliance and discipline is adhered to. Hopefully, the authorities in charge of town and city planning are expected to work hand in hand to check the menace.
Everyone has a basic human right to a decent and affordable home. Families need to be able to access homes that they can be proud of, neighborhoods that are safe and clean, and homes that are part of established communities with access to good basic amenities. Decent and genuinely affordable housing should not be for the privilege of the luckiest people, but something that everyone should have the opportunity to achieve. On that note is a wrap on today's edition of Housing Development. Keep a date same time next week. Connect with us on all social media platforms via the link showing on your TV screen. I remain Flora Ani. your housing diva. Do stay safe.